All right, so today we are diving into the world of special educational needs teaching,
Okay.
specifically at the primary school level.
Right.
You shared some excerpts from RoleCatcher with us,
Yeah.
and now we're going to unpack what this is all about.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we talk about special educational needs teaching, we aren't talking about just, tweaking a lesson plan here or there. This
Yeah.
is really about, taking the entire experience of education and tailoring it to a whole spectrum of needs.
Yeah, and you know what I thought was really interesting was just seeing some of the sample profiles
Yeah.
that they have on RoleCatcher,
Yeah.
because it really brings to light that this is so much more than just what we think of as a traditional classroom.
Sure.
It could be one day you're adapting lessons for a student with dyslexia, and then the next day you are focusing on, very essential life skills like communication and social interaction for a child with autism.
Right.
So it really highlights the profound impact, I think, that this role has.
And it's something that RoleCatcher really emphasizes in these materials is this idea of emotional reward. Like, this isn't just about imparting knowledge, right?
Right.
It's about really empowering these young students to be able to navigate the world and reach their full potential.
So paint a picture for us, if you will, of what the typical work environment looks like for someone in this role.
Sure. So, imagine that vibrancy of a primary school classroom.
Yeah.
Like all the colorful displays and, the tiny chairs and, gathered for story time.
Mm-hmm.
Now layer on top of that a healthy dose of collaboration.
Okay.
You are working with other professionals, counselors, administrators, therapists, all coming together to create this supportive environment for these students.
Okay.
And then, of course, you are interacting with the students themselves,
Right.
their parents and their guardians.
Mm.
So it's a very people-centric role. It requires a lot of empathy and patience and understanding.
So it sounds like it takes a very special person to thrive in that environment.
Okay.
So let's talk about the actual career path, because RoleCatcher really breaks it down in a clear way, this kind of trajectory from, entry level all the way up to very senior positions.
Yeah, and I thought what was really helpful about the way that they did that is they gave you a glimpse into what each stage might look like.
Right.
So you're not just seeing, a title like Senior Special Educational Needs Teacher.
Right.
You're actually seeing a sample profile of what that might look like. So you're seeing what kinds of skills and responsibilities someone at that level might have.
And I think that satisfies that quick but thorough understanding that I think a lot of us are looking for when we're first starting to explore something.
Absolutely.
Now, let's say someone is listening to this and they're intrigued. What would be some practical first steps they could take to, just kind of dip their toes into this world?
Well, RoleCatcher is a big proponent of getting hands-on experience.
Okay.
So, volunteering in special education settings, working as a teaching assistant internships, these are all excellent ways to really get a feel for what the job is like.
Right.
Not to mention, start to build relationships with other people who are more experienced in this area.
And while you're doing that, they highlight some really key certifications that are essential for anyone who's serious about this as a career path.
Absolutely. And having those certifications not only demonstrates your commitment, but it also ensures that you have the necessary knowledge and skills to really effectively support these students.
So let's talk about those for a minute.
Okay.
They mentioned specifically the special education certification, a teaching license, and then this one might seem obvious, but CPR and first aid certification.
And when you think about the hands-on nature of this work, working with young children,
Sure.
especially those with special needs,
Right.
being prepared for any situation, including an emergency, becomes even more important.
Yeah. It's about creating a safe learning environment for everyone.
Exactly.
Now, for those who are maybe a little further along in their journey, what are some ways to kind of level up in the field of special education? What does advancement look like?
Well, one path is to move into more of a leadership role.
Okay.
So this might look like becoming a department head or a special education coordinator, or even moving into school administration.
Okay.
Another avenue is to specialize.
Okay.
You might find that you are particularly drawn to working with students with autism or learning disabilities or behavioral challenges.
Right.
And then, of course, pursuing further education like a master's degree or a doctorate is always a fantastic way to deepen your expertise
Right.
and open doors to new opportunities.
It seems like the thread here is a real desire for continuous learning.
Absolutely. The field is constantly evolving, as new research emerges, as new teaching approaches are developed, as technology plays an increasingly important role.
Hmm.
It really requires this adaptability and this
Right.
willingness to learn and grow and this just unwavering passion, I think, for supporting these students.
Yeah, and just that commitment to staying ahead of the curve. And speaking of staying ahead of the curve,
Yeah.
one thing that really struck me in the RoleCatcher materials was just how much they emphasize the role of technology
Mm.
in special education. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's incredibly exciting. We are really seeing this shift towards personalized instruction.
Yeah.
And technology is playing a key role in making that happen.
Hmm.
Instead of this one-size-fits-all approach, we can now really tailor lessons to each student's unique learning style and strengths and interests.
Right. It's like we're moving away from mass production to something much more individualized.
Exactly. And it goes even further than that. RoleCatcher even talked about how technology can be used to create those individualized education plans, the IEPs,
Right.
so that educators can set specific goals and track progress and make adjustments as needed.
That's amazing. And I bet that takes a lot of the guesswork out of it for both the teachers and the students.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious about students with more physical limitations.
Mhm.
How can technology help them access information and participate in the classroom?
Well, that's where assistive technologies come in.
Okay.
So things like text-to-speech software, which can read aloud digital text for students with visual impairments or dyslexia, or, adaptive keyboards that make it easier for students with mobility issues to type and communicate.
Wow.
These tools can be absolutely game-changing.
Yeah, it's amazing to think that, technology can really level the playing field in a way and create a much more inclusive learning environment.
And that really speaks to this overall trend that RoleCatcher highlighted, which is this move towards personalized instruction.
Right.
In special education, it's about recognizing that each student is an individual
Right.
with their own set of needs, strengths, and challenges. And technology is really giving us the tools to be able to meet those needs in ways that we, maybe could only dream of before.
Yeah, it's like we're moving away from this idea of, fixing what's wrong, and instead we're embracing and celebrating each student's unique way of learning.
Exactly. And that's part of what makes this profession so incredibly rewarding,
Yeah.
even with all of the challenges that it brings. You're not just teaching, you're advocating for each student, you're guiding them, you're celebrating their victories, big and small.
And speaking of challenges, RoleCatcher didn't shy away from that either.
Mm-hmm.
They were very upfront about, the emotional toll that this job can take, the often heavy workload.
Right.
I think they even mentioned the dreaded paperwork.
Yeah, there's no denying that it's a demanding profession, both emotionally and practically. You're constantly adapting, problem solving, navigating these complex situations.
Right.
But for those who are drawn to it, the rewards are immeasurable.
Yeah.
To see a student who was once struggling suddenly grasp a concept,
Wow.
or to witness a child who was once isolated really blossomed in the supportive learning environment, those moments make all the challenges worthwhile.
It sounds incredibly fulfilling, and I imagine it takes a certain kind of resilience to really navigate those emotional highs and lows.
Oh, absolutely. It requires, a deep well of empathy, a commitment to lifelong learning, and this unwavering belief in the potential of every child, no matter their challenges.
So well said. And, one thing that really shined through in these RoleCatcher materials was just that the passion, the dedication, the commitment to making a difference.
It's more than just a job. It's a calling.
It really is. And so for those who are listening and feel that call,
Mm-hmm.
we've talked a lot about the data, the career path and the challenges and the rewards.
Right.
But let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and tap into your expertise a little bit more here.
Sure.
Because I remember how RoleCatcher really highlighted that trend of personalized instruction in special education
Yeah.
and how technology is playing an even bigger role in all of this.
Absolutely. Like they planted a seed for us to explore further.
Exactly. So let's water that seed together. Given everything that we've discussed about the kind of evolving landscape of special education, what other innovative tools or approaches do you think hold the most potential when it comes to personalizing these learning experiences?
Well, one area that comes to mind is Universal Design for Learning.
Yeah.
Or UDL.
UDL.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's this framework that encourages educators to create lessons that are accessible to all students from the get-go,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
regardless of their learning differences.
So instead of like creating a lesson plan and then trying to figure out how to adapt it for different needs, You're saying that UDL is like, let's just design it with those needs in mind from the very beginning.
Exactly. It's about building in flexibility and options for how information is presented, how students can engage with the material, and how they can demonstrate their understanding.
So, for example, if you were doing a lesson on the solar system,
Right.
some students might have a traditional textbook,
Sure.
but then you might offer an audio version, or you might have like a video with captions.
Absolutely. And then for students who learn best hands-on, they could build a model of the solar system
Right.
or use a virtual reality program to actually explore it.
Wow.
So it's about recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to learning.
Right.
And the great thing about UDL is it benefits all students, not just those with identified disabilities.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because by creating this more flexible and inclusive environment, then everyone really has that opportunity to thrive.
Exactly.
So do you think that UDL could be the key to unlocking this new era of really personalized learning?
It certainly has the potential, and especially I think when we start to combine those UDL principles with these emerging technologies.
Right, because then the possibilities just get even bigger.
Exactly. Imagine having artificial intelligence tools that can analyze a student's learning style and then suggest personalized learning pathways or virtual reality experiences that would allow students to step inside historical events or explore the human body in 3D.
Wow. It's really incredible to think about how much the field of education is evolving and changing.
Absolutely.
And it seems like technology is really going to play an even greater role in all of this as we move forward.
Absolutely. But I think it's important to remember that at the end of the day, technology is just a tool.
That's a good point.
The heart of special education will always be that human connection.
Yeah.
Those dedicated teachers and therapists and families who are working so hard to empower these students to reach their full potential.
So well said. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive so far.
Yeah.
From the day-to-day realities of being a special educational needs teacher to this evolving landscape of the profession itself. So with all of that in mind, what stands out to you as the most important takeaway from all of this? What do you hope our listeners really reflecting on right now?
I think the biggest takeaway is that this field is dynamic. It's challenging, but it's also incredibly rewarding. And, it's about so much more than just academics. It's really about nurturing the whole child, and fostering a love of learning that will hopefully last a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so, while there are certainly challenges that come with this job, the opportunity to make such a profound difference in the lives of these students, I think makes it all worthwhile.
It really does.
So, if you're someone who feels drawn to this path, I really encourage you to explore it further.
Yeah.
You might just find your calling.
Beautifully said. And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights into this world and sparked your curiosity to learn even more.
Absolutely.
This is just the beginning. There's a whole world of knowledge out there waiting to be discovered.
That's right.
So until next time, keep asking those great questions and keep diving deep.
See you next time.